For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Is there really anything else that people are talking about this week? It's election week. It's funny how all of the newscasts called it election night in America, and then it was election day in America, and then CNN on Wednesday night had election night in America continues. It's election week. Just call it election week. And there's no better person to chime in on the American election like a Canadian, and so I've got some thoughts because, I'm an entertainment reporter, so basically on Tuesday night and Wednesday night I was watching how the celebs were reacting and responding to the vote, and I just have some thoughts about how things played out on Tuesday night. Now, again, my thoughts are all about, would you call it the auxiliary things that were happening, not the actual votes, not even about the wins, the losses, the Senate, no. I've got the trivial stuff, the stuff that people, the real stuff people care about. So my thoughts on that are coming up, and the song American Pie, this is a very loose connection, but Don McLean is about to celebrate 50 years of that hit song, and so in honor of election week, we're going to be talking with Don a little bit later in the show. That's the best I could do. Last week we had Rosie Barton from the CBC on, right? We kind of previewed the American election, and so I figured what else is kind of like traditionally American that people, right? That song is American. That's, yeah. Again, Canadian production team here, everybody. This is how we do it. No different than when Americans talk about Canadians and go, "Eh?" All right. Anyway, so my thoughts on the election coming up right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in again today, and election week continues, and congrats to President insert name here in editing, because like true typical American style, it can't just be election night, right? If you watched TV coverage, you saw it was election night, and then it was election day. I called it election night morning on Wednesday, and then on CNN Wednesday night was election night in America continues, I believe. But let's go back to Tuesday for a second, because it was all about CNN and John King. Now, that giant board, first off, I applaud you with the technology and the zooming in and the pressing buttons and dials and circling and writing and all that other stuff, and your facts and figures. Although I can't even say that. He could have made up complete bullshit and it sounded believable. But here's the deal. Nobody cares about all of those stats and facts and figures. And again, I'm Canadian, so full disclosure here, I could give two shits about which county and this and what. Tell me who won. I want to know who won, and let's carry on. And I feel that that's actually sort of what loses the average person. Who cares about the statistics? If we turn this one red, we turn this one blue, let's compare it Hillary's 2016, and then if we do this, and if it's undecided, and we've got this percentage left, I found myself sitting there going, I don't know what I just heard. I was listening. I saw you pointing, but you lost me. The only one that cares about those stats and facts and figures are commentators and politicians, probably. honestly. Even when I vote. No, I'm not big into politics. I'll be the first to admit that. But I don't care what the vote breakdown was in the neighborhood across the way from me 4 years ago. Like, whatever. Just tell me if it's somebody new, if it's a different party now, and going forward, what are we facing? Done. And then when you look at how many there are across the country like that in the United States, it's quite overwhelming. So again, kudos to these commentators and hosts who know these facts inside and out and can whip that map around. But yeah, changing the color and doing all the what ifs and whatever, like, you totally lose me. And then poor Wolf Blitzer, bless his heart. You know, the man is 104 years old. Take a breath, everybody. Take a breath. I didn't know if we were analyzing sports footage. Like, is this halftime and we're looking back at, you know, how everybody was playing and yeah, like, and that's the way that Americans view politics, which is really interesting because it's been a 4-year political campaign, right? Literally from the time that Trump won, I believe he filed his re-election on Inauguration Day. Isn't that what they were saying? So it really was a 4-year campaign. And I remember saying even back then, so 4 years ago, that I said, like, how is this not going to get, like, sick of being talked about? Like, I'm again, not even my country, but I don't know how you guys can find this entertaining to continue on and on and on and on and on. Sure as shit, it continues on. And so Tuesday night was interesting because I was up watching the celebrity tweets until about 4 a.m, and then we did our entertainment headline show. And it kind of started out that celebs were tweeting about drinking and being anxious, and I guess a lot of the country was. And then as the gap narrowed, people started to lash out at Trump, where it was like, I can't believe people are, you know, he's this. And then the realization was, wait a second, I should lash out at my fellow Americans for making it this close, right? So there was kind of this really weird curve or wave of roller coaster train of thought, I guess you would call it. And then there were the people who stayed up in the middle of the night, but yeah, it was fascinating to sort of watch how people's attitudes change. Now for me, and again, just sort of I'm an entertainment reporter, and I was watching from the sidelines. It was very reminiscent of the 2016 election, where the forecasting was saying that Trump didn't stand a chance for being elected, or being named president. And then all of a sudden, as the votes are coming in, the gap narrows, and it starts to be sort of a dead heat to a point. And it levels off for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he wins. And so come Tuesday night, you know, my mom had texted me because she knew I was going to be having a late night. She asked, because I went and bought snacks or whatever. She's like, are you ready for tonight? And I said, Dad, I'm getting a weird feeling about this. It's very similar. Now, again, the polling this time around, and again, I'm not one of those people who says about, you know, don't believe polls, whatever, because quite honestly, at the end of the day, if my phone rings, and I don't answer it typically if I don't know the phone number, but my phone rings and somebody's asking me, did you vote for Trump or Biden? I'm either going to hang up or I'm going to tell you what I think the answer is that you want to hear so I can get you off the phone as quickly as possible. Now, if you ask me that as I'm leaving the poll, I understand that people might lie and say, yeah, I voted for that person, so they don't look like a dick, right? They might not want to admit that they voted for Trump, as we saw last time. But, you know, but I don't understand, like, why we need the poll. So for the months leading up to this, you tell me that Biden is winning by 17%. As the voter now, me as the viewer, is my takeaway that I shouldn't bother voting for Trump because he doesn't stand a chance? And again, this isn't even a anti-Trump. That's not candidate B. Let's call it candidate B. Candidate B is trailing by 17%. Like, why are you telling me that? Why do I need to know that before I vote? Really? Are you telling me not to vote for candidate B because he doesn't stand a chance? I truly don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that I want to know the answer. Just let me make up my mind. You know, we talk about, you know, Russian influence and fake news and whatever. If I really was tuned into politics, or I did have an interest, and like I said, I don't, but I'm going to, if it means that much to me and I'm going to cast a vote and I feel there's value in my vote and I feel that it's important for me to have my say, then I can do my research. You know, during our last civic election in my hometown of Winnipeg, I kind of thought it would be interesting for me to interview the 9 candidates that were running for mayor. And I did. And, you know, did I have a major takeaway? Well, I had a major takeaway that these are people who were very friendly and welcoming. And again, they accommodated because they wanted my vote and they knew that I was broadcasting our interviews. But at the end of it, I just kind of sat there going, I really didn't get I didn't get anything new from you. Or, okay, you have this idea, but I, as the voter, don't see that as feasible. So I'm not going to vote for you then. Great idea, pie in the sky. No, I'm not going to vote for you because I don't think you stand a chance. I certainly wasn't listening to the polling and going, oh, okay, well, the incumbent who we've had for this many years, and I know our mayor, and I've interviewed him many times. We've even been in Florida together, and I interviewed him during a charity event while we were at Disney World. And but he's a nice guy, and this is where I think Canadians are a little bit different than Americans in that way, because you don't see, okay, so let's say Trudeau, because we're talking federal politics now. I don't see Trudeau 2020, not that we had an election in 2020, but I don't see those flags everywhere. And there's almost sort of this, is idolization a word? That it's almost like you idolize the candidate. And for me, I kind of look at that and go, they're supposed to be sort of a civic patriot in a way. Like, it's just kind of, they should be quietly doing the job for the benefit of their community or their country, whatever it is, and that be that. Do I like Trudeau? Well, I don't like his scandals that he's involved in, but I think that he seems like a nice guy. I think he's genuine in terms of supporting the gay community and young entrepreneurs and things like that. So from that perspective, okay, he's a nice guy. But but again, I don't have giant signs for Trudeau on my wall or in my front yard or anything like that. And that's sort of the difference, is Americans are very, very vocal about their political choices and heroes almost in a way. Whereas Canadians, it's very, very low key. We had Rosie Barton from CBC on last week talking about politics and the two countries. I honestly don't think that Canadians care about politics that much, really. I mean, because why, if it's so divisive, and it's funny because I was talking with my mom. I walked over to my parents' house on Wednesday afternoon. The weather was beautiful, by the way. And I said that to my mom. I said, we hear about Americans who are having Thanksgiving dinner because, so-and-so's not coming to Thanksgiving because they support Trump, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I have no idea. In my family, we've got a big family, cousins, aunts, uncles, whatever. I don't know how any of them vote. I don't know if Uncle Jim votes for this person, that person, whoever. I don't care. I haven't asked him. And I said to my mom, I have gone to our family get-togethers for 38 years. Granted, when you're a kid, you don't know anything about politics. But so let's say since I was 18, whatever, So for 20 years, I can't admit that I've listened to every single conversation at a family get-together, around the dinner table or whatever it is. And maybe we've had conversations about Trudeau and how he's hot or how he's, whatever. But there's never been a shouting match. There's never been anybody having a full-on argument about politics. Our family just doesn't care. Now, again, you could look at that and go, well, that's leading your country. You should care. What I mean by that is we don't care enough to pick fights with each other and make an issue of it. I don't know who Uncle Jim... I don't even know if Uncle Jim votes. I hope he does. I think he would because he's a responsible citizen. But I don't even know. And I don't care to ask him. And I don't think that he's going to ask me. I don't care. Because there's bigger things. Bigger things. So it's, it's interesting because I just can't I can't comprehend not speaking to a family member because they voted for so-and-so. Because it just doesn't come up in conversation in our family. So... Anyway, there you go. So send me your thoughts. If you're sick of hearing about politics, I would love to hear from you. Live at jbonair.com. Were you drinking election night or election night morning or election week or whatever the hell it's called? Send me an email, live at jbonair.com. We're back with Don McLean, American Pie, right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Legendary recording artist. Well, he's a singer-songwriter. He's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He's got a top 5 song of the century. He's a music icon. Don McLean is joining us to talk about his latest album. It's called Still Playing Favorites. Hi, Don.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. Yes, it's called still playing favorites, which is kind of an inside thing because playing favorites was back in 1973, I guess. And it was the fourth album that I made, and I made it of a lot of songs that I didn't write. And so that's what's on this record, a lot of songs that I did not write, but that the group that I travel with, we like to play them in shows.
And so why did you revisit the concept? I guess it's doing covers, but of course you make them your own as well. Why revisit that so many years later?
It just sort of happened. You know, I had these songs that I had been collecting from studio things that I'd done, and I wanted to, you know, find a title and brought back the old title. And it's got a cute cover. I have my girlfriend kissing a poster of me. And it's like, you know, like one of those album covers from the 1950s or 60s or something. Nothing too profound. And just, you know, I think that we really did a good job on a lot of these songs. The band that I travel with is very guitar-centric. So there's a lot of good guitar playing on the part of Bip Pipperman and Mike Sievers, and then Jerry Kroon on the drums. Tony Migliore plays fabulous piano, and Brad Albin is on bass. We have some other bass players on there as well. And I get to play a little. So, yeah, it's just time for something like that.
When you're recording songs, let's say like So Doggone Lonesome, which of course was, you know, a hit for Johnny Cash, when you're recording those songs, where are you going creatively? Obviously you want to make it Don McLean, but how do you incorporate Johnny, who's also a legend, into your track? What do you do? Take me there creatively.
Well, I'm not afraid of any man, so... You know, I'll take on Crying, which was a major song for Roy Orbison, and I think I can make it my own. And so I have a love for any song that I do, you know, and I'm really in love with this stuff. And so I infuse my love for this into the song, and I arrange it myself. And actually, the song Doggone Lonesome was a track that Cash recorded, but it was a song he wrote for Walking the Floor Over You. I can't think of his name right now. Ernest Tubb. Mm-hmm. So Cash was, you know, writing songs before he got to be Johnny Cash, and always wrote songs. But I knew Johnny Cash. You know, some of these people I've known, and so it's all part of my, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a good feeling that I get from doing this stuff.
Is he kind of in the forefront of your mind then, or vision?
No.
No?
No, I'm thinking about the lyric only.
Okay.
I only think about the lyrics. That's what I think about. Once I get a handle on the song and know I want to do the song, and I love the lyrics, like the song that's on there called She Used to Love Me a Lot, that's like a movie. And I want to make it cinematic when I sing it. And I think we did that. And so, you know, and then Tell Old Bill is like a song I was singing when I was 14 or 15 years old. I've loved that song all my life. It's a mystical song in a way, you know. Imagine, you know, you go off to town, and there's a lot of folks like that, you know, warning, you know, like Johnny wrote a song, don't take your guns to town. They're always warning the young folks on the farm, you know, stay away from the city. It's bad, you know, it's dangerous, and, you know, you won't be able to handle it. So, Old Bill, let them downtown girls alone. And it's like Leadbelly wrote a song called Fannin Street, where he wore long pants for the first time and went down to Fannin Street in Shreveport. So this is a recurring theme in a lot of songs, folk songs, that have to do with young people leaving the farm.
Now, let me flip around that question then too, because you've also had other artists record your music, of course.
Yeah.
Do they connect with you to get your insight? Obviously, you must have an opinion when it's your own song, like, you know, Madonna doing American Pie. Like, Do you give your feedback to them?
Madonna doesn't need any help from me.
No.
I mean, she's just she's a juggernaut, and I was so happy that she did the song, and I loved what she did with it. And I love that cool production that she did. And that video really was one of her best videos, I think. Everybody knows and remembers that video.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it was a hell of a shot in the arm for that song.
Well, you know, I couldn't interview without bringing up, American Pie, obviously, right? It's one of your biggest hits, and that was in it was 71, right?
Yes, in fact, we're going to have the 50th anniversary of the release of the American Pie album next year, and there's going to be a documentary movie and a children's book and also a Broadway show, which I'm about to sign a contract for. And these are things that will be ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens to me. If I drop dead tomorrow, these things are going to happen.
And, so the documentary called The Day the Music Died, right? The story behind...
Uh-huh.
Is that going to sort of...
I think what is going to be in that movie is more or less what I was trying to say in the last few interviews, the one with The Guardian, that there's more biographical aspects to that song and all my music than people perhaps will realize. So we're going to make it more of a personal journey and enlarge things that way. So it's going to be very interesting and revelatory, I hope.
When we think of how many songs have come and gone in the years, right? Not your songs, I just mean, on the radio in general.
Sure.
There's really something about American Pie that stuck. And I love asking an artist, can you pinpoint what is it about that song that people loved, or I guess still love today?
Well, I think it operates on a lot of levels. It's fun, it's serious, it's sad, it's happy, it's rock and roll, it's pop, it's folk, it's a children's song, it's so many different things, and I think it's been a good friend. I hope that some of my songs are good friends to the people that love them and hear them, as music should be. So it's always with you to go back to, like a good movie or a good record that you like. It's very important that we have these things. It's very accessible music, more so than books. You read the book and the book hangs around and you really don't read it again. You maybe give it to somebody else to read, but a song you can hear over and over and it lives in your mind. You know the words. Nobody can topple it like a statue. Nobody can knock it down like a building. It lives in people's hearts and in their minds. It's a very powerful art form, and it's something that I devoted my life to because I saw it that way, that nothing was better than doing that for people. If you could do that. I had no guarantee that I'd be able to write songs or that I'd be able to do anything. And I just wanted it real bad and did it and worked at it.
And it's obvious this song is still close to you. I mean, you're, all these years later, look at how you're actually growing the song into other projects. But I have to ask, because I've asked everyone from Dolly Parton to Loretta Lynn to Kenny Rogers, do you ever get sick of performing that huge song? Does it ever get old for you?
Well, it's not my job to worry about me. My job is to perform it for other people who pay money to see me. Mm-hmm. I don't have the luxury of bringing my personal preferences, my whether or not I have a stomach ache or whether or not something made me mad. I don't bring that to the stage. My job is to entertain and give everything that I have to that audience because they have assembled there and taken time out of their lives, and their time is precious, and spent their money, and it is not relevant. That's the thing. A lot of young performers, and it's really started since the 60s. I remember seeing one time the Buffalo Springfield, they were opening for the Beach Boys, and they were on this and Stephen Stills got on stage and started whining about how tough it was being on the road. I was sick, man, all this stuff. I said, don't ever do that. I made a personal note to myself because it was just so, self-indulgent. Just sing the songs, man. We're not here to hear your problems.
But take me on the stage when you know that song is coming up next. You must know the audience is going to go wild when they hear, right? Like, what are you thinking? What's going through your head just before you start the song?
Well, I've already set it up by singing a lot of other songs that will lead toward it.
Yeah.
Because I do kind of the American songbook, and a lot of those songs are songs I wrote, and then there's songs that I sing that I'm known for, and so on. So, and it can come at different times. I just did a recent thing with this 615. It was a little in-studio concert, and I put American Pie in the middle of the show. I didn't put it at the end. I ended with something else. So I can do pretty much what I want to do. What I'm trying to do is take people on an interesting journey and musically, with some stories and whatever. And I'm happy with the repertoire that I have. I like my songs. Going back to your other question about getting tired of singing them, I would get tired of singing some song that was a piece of garbage that I was known for. But I like my songs. They're good songs. They're famous. They have stood the test of time, and I'm very proud of them.
And I guess that's also part of being a songwriter yourself as well, is that they are like your baby then, right? Like you do have that closer connection than somebody writing a song and giving it to you and you performing it. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I think so. It's a little bit more personal, but I mean, yes and no. Sometimes there are wonderful songs that I love to sing that I couldn't possibly write. I wouldn't be a good enough writer to do it. And so I'm glad to be able to sing those because, they give me musically what I want.
So the new album is called Still Playing Favorites. Where can people get it?
It's online, digital at the moment, but if you go to my website, just look up Don McLean YouTube website, and you'll see so much of me you won't believe it.
Well, I'm always in awe chatting with music legends, so I appreciate you making the time. The great Don McLean, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for your good questions. I really appreciate it.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here back on The Scribble. My thanks to Don McLean for joining us. Great chatting with him. And if there's any thoughts that you want to share about the election, and what I mean by that, I'm not even saying about, don't email me and rant about Trump or Biden or say it's, I want to know kind of about the not the outlying issues, but like the stuff that I've been talking about, kind of the side conversations about the whole election night. What did you think of John King and the Magic Wall and Wolf Blitzer and the forecasting, and then all of a sudden it's like it's too close to call? Well, why did you make a big deal like we're about to get some big result and you're just telling me it's too close to call? That kind of stuff. I want to hear from you on that. Send an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. There we go. Again, I don't care for politics. I think I made that very clear, but I do kind of like having the side conversations and sort of the side topics. I like hearing about that. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter @thescribbleshow. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.